Good morning, Commissioners and staff. The Durham Planning Department is recommending that the Board of County Commissioners no longer be involved with annexation cases within the urban growth boundary. There were 3 statements made in a recent memo. Why would you even consider these 3 proposals relinquishing authority to review cases within the county? What voice would county residents have in annexation cases? Some people within the circled area in red up there live in the city, but many do not. We cannot elect the mayor or city council. You are the county residents' only elected voice. We depend on you to represent us. The urban growth boundary makes up about 70% of Durham County. Who do county citizens turn to when their property or wells are damaged from blasting in newly annexed city developments, sharing a property line with county residents? What if the new city development has caused flooding on neighboring county residents' property? I want us to look at 2 cases. So if you would click again, one more time. Okay, this is a adjacent piece of property. There was a new city annexation case right beside this property. It has left this widow, who is a widow, with a lot of property damage. Could county commissioners have lobbied for better buffers? If you give up the right to hear the cases, who do we turn to? And we know you can't annex them, but we need your voice. Next one, please. This is a recent case. Savannah Kilman reached out to me because a neighboring annexation case was flooding her home with stormwater runoff. Mr. Maurice Jones responded to recent emails we sent in and is helping Lana coordinate with city stormwater engineers to find a solution. Without our county representation, Ms. Kilman would have little hope. This problem still is not fixed with her property flooding again this weekend. Every piece of property inside the urban growth boundary will not be annexed into the city. Most residents in the county that live within the UGB do not want to be annexed into the city. These county residents deserve to be represented. Their elected officials deserve to be represented by their elected officials when the annexation cases arise in close proximity to their homes. Removing the county commissioners' voices from these annexation cases will remove county residents' representation. We need more representation, not less. The county residents expect for you to be our voice. We need you. And in the 3 bullet points that were represented, it said the pending consolidated annexation cases reported to JCCPC will be discontinued as 1. 2, the planning staff will no longer send it to you all. And 3, only if it's outside the UGB will you hear it. We need you to hear any property that's county. You are our only voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Wanda Allen, and I come today wishing to learn how you can choose not to represent the citizens that vote for you. Who's going to represent us if it's not you? It has been documented and put on record that damage that occurs to the county residents due to city annexation is not a city problem. It's a county problem, per the city mayor. You guys are very familiar with the 35 people on Junction Road that are sharing one well that is polluted. Have you forgotten the number of hours that you spent and the dollars you tried to bring resolution to the problem? Which still, as of today, has not been resolved. But you, as county commissioners, have been identified as the ones that's supposed to handle the problem. The urban growth boundary makes up about 70% of the county. So why are you willing not to be involved in the decision process? Why would you be willing to accept the responsibility without being part of the process? If you guys do not represent us, who's going to? We need you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Heidi Grable. I live in northern Durham County in Rougemont, right in also Bahama. This was brought to my attention, and I don't even know who I'm supposed to be talking to except the county commissioners, just to say This notice by the planning department, as I understand it, the planning department is asking the commissioners to not be involved in these decisions for the annexations. Why would the Durham Planning Department have the request to reduce input by citizens and our county commissioners, elected officials, that are representing our citizens? Why would this be accepted by our county commissioners? This sounds and feels and looks unconstitutional to me. I know that the county commissioners had their power reduced by some state legislation that passed. I still don't understand why we don't have an equal vote with the city council. I am a real estate agent. When I go to the Orange County Planning Department to make a request for a client who wants to use a different zoning or different type of permit for something, the Orange County Planning Department person said to me, "We do what our taxpayers tell us they want." And I was literally shocked because I was like, that was so refreshing to think that the planning department would respond to someone that way. I don't ever get that feeling when I talk to the Durham Planning Department. They're always pushing just higher development, higher this, yes, yes, yes. It doesn't feel like it's moving that way. Why would it serve the citizens to remove their representation and voice in annexations and developments, both inside and outside the urban growth boundary? What is next? Why would this serve the Durham County residents, and who is the planning department serving with this request? Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have two virtual comments from Paige Polk first. Give us one moment while the clerk.
My name is Paige Polk, and I live off of Doc Nichols Road in Southeast Durham. During the May 6th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners work session, the topic of county input on annexations was raised with a question to explore changing the previously established process. And I'm speaking today to share how essential it is that county residents be allowed to give case-related comments during informational presentations for these annexation requests and not just during public comment. I am purposefully attending this meeting on Zoom. Unfortunately, with the technical difficulties, you can't see it, but I was hoping that you could see for yourselves the effects of poor county representation in city development projects. I am a Durham County resident, but when you look around the entire perimeter of my property border, you see rows of city development properties, polluted creeks, massive deforestation, and mounds of red clay. I have been living in a constant construction zone for at least 4 years, with high traffic, beeping, and even dynamite blasting for industrial city housing projects. It's disrupted my sleep and damaged my home. This development has also destabilized the wildlife ecosystem, polluting creeks and scattering deer, groundhogs, coyotes, and more throughout the neighborhood to look for shelter. And I wasn't able to vote for or against any of this because Durham County residents cannot vote for the Durham City Council nor for the Durham mayor. County commissioners must allow county residents to provide comments on annexation cases during informational presentations and after the case is sent to the Planning Commission. These comments must also be consolidated in a prioritized item for City Hall, especially because of the previously mentioned representation deficit. We must uplift the voices of the people who have tended to and lived in our communities for years. There can be responsible development that offers affordable housing, protects our water from pollution, and integrates thoughtful community spaces like parks and small businesses into our planning. To do this, we need the voices of those who've invested their lives here, not just their finances, to decide how it's built. Thank you.
Thank you, Paige. Thank you, everyone who came for our public comments. That concludes the citizens' comments period. There is going to be a presentation today regarding the comments that were made. That moves us to our next presentations, the information report, County Commissioners' input on annexations with Planning Director Sarah Young. And we have 30 minutes scheduled for this. I want to ask colleagues, let's try to get back on track. And I know this is going to be a hot topic, but let's try to be concise with our questions. Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for having us. I'm Sarah Young, Director of the City County Planning Department. I have with me Bo Dobrinsky, one of my assistant directors. And so we just wanted to come and follow up on this item. This was a topic that was raised at your May work session when we presented our annual work program. And it was raised by one of you all, and then I think there was some additional consensus to revisit the way that you all are participating in providing some input into the annexation process. So what we did is, as promised at that meeting, we had the next Joint City-County Planning Committee meeting coming up in June, that next month. We took the topic up there, which is the body, as you know, JCCPC is the body per the interlocal agreement where the city and the county kind of work together to provide guidance to the planning department on issues of joint jurisdictional interest. So we did that, and at that meeting, there was consensus to do the three things outlined in this cover memo, which basically are to stop bringing reports, kind of these summary case reports of pending cases to the JCCPC, to stop providing, we have been sending for about 2 years now, emails to you all on a periodic basis for cases that are coming up to council to seek any comments from you all that then would be passed to council. So to stop doing that. And instead to focus your efforts and time on cases that are within, outside of the urban growth boundary. So basically the comprehensive plan, and this is, I'm summarizing the conversation at JCCPC for those of you that are not part of that group. Because the comprehensive plan sets out the urban growth boundary is the extent, the furthest extent that the city would annex. And both the city and the county agreed to that by their adoption of the plan. It seemed like focusing on cases that may come forward that are outside of the urban growth boundary, so in areas that we have said should stay rural and should not be annexed, and instead bring those cases to you all as a courtesy, again, because annexations under state law do not go to you all. They go to the municipality doing the annexing, whether it's City of Durham or one of our other cities. There are multiple cities and towns that annex into Durham County, not just the City of Durham. So to provide an informational item on those cases, since those really would be a big change in policy, right? They would be things that deviate from the adopted comprehensive plan, and give you all a chance to talk about them, put the applicant in the hot seat a little bit as to, you know, why do you want to do something that really runs counter to the comprehensive plan, and allow a venue for you all to have that more direct conversation with the applicant. That would not be a public hearing, so we talked about the importance of being clear in terms of jurisdiction, that would just be an informational item. But there were a few kind of logistical things. At the time we had this conversation at JCCPC in June, we had not talked through some of the details, which now we have kind of fleshed out a little bit more. And for instance, we proposed that if you wanted to do this, the appropriate time would be after the case has been to the Planning Commission, so that you have the benefit of the Planning Commission comments, and that then we would provide for council's full consideration, kind of a direct link with a timestamp to your meeting, so they can kind of hear the full conversation for themselves. So anyway, so that is where things kind of went, and we are here to share that with the full body, see if you have additional comments, concerns, feedback that you want to share. This item is back on the JCCPC agenda tomorrow, so it's kind of good timing, and we can wrap that up and finalize it hopefully tomorrow. So again, we're here to answer any questions about it. That's it.
Thank you. Let's see. Is there anyone from JCCPC also that, I know I'm an alternate, but I'll start with you. Okay, Vice Chair Burns.
I just want to say, I have nothing but the utmost respect for both of y'all, like, and the rest of your team, Alexander, Bo, Sarah. But I'm not just an elected official in this space. I'm a taxpayer too. And not because of y'all, clearly not because you all are great leaders and great public administrators, and you have a job to do, and you make things that are really technical, very consumable for somebody like me who 4 years ago, I was a novice at it and really got thrust into JCCPC and ended up chairing it, and I've learned a lot. And while I recognize that everybody does not have the benefit of getting the packets that we get, and also some of the people that get the packets that we get still do not read them. I personally feel like information is a good thing, and whether folks, and this is not about my colleagues, so before anyone takes offense, whether people on this body, whether people at the school board, whether people at the city council want to take the individuals seriously who walk in here once a month and talk about their houses and homes being flooded and ceilings being cracked. I personally take those seriously. I would have taken them seriously before I sit here. I plan on taking them serious after I sit here. I can't even tell y'all how many notices I've gotten just for construction around my home. Like, I already know. We're sitting here almost like, oh, well, this happened. At some point, we are going to be those people that are like, why is my backyard flooded? Why are all my trees down? And each month is somebody new. So I just won't, like tomorrow, my vote will be that, while I can appreciate and respectfully appreciate your recommendation, I don't see a problem with us getting additional information, because two things. We like to sit here and say county, 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 and I know that we can't vote on what the city does, but the city, those are our residents too. So we do hear a lot of the folks from the county coming here, but there are city residents that are suffering under these same issues. They are, and I do think we've tried to put in buffers. I do think that one of the things the manager did, she was really good at saying, we're going to send out notices, and then when the fire marshal and everybody came, I was like, well, what does the state outline as a decent notification time limit for this blasting? And the law doesn't even speak to it. So even as we endeavor to make sure that people are better off, the state doesn't speak to it. And I would like to think that in this position of privilege where these 5 people sit with 3 new ones next year, I want those 3 people who are going to come in like novices, like I did on day one. I don't want them to be at an even further deficit. And that's just, I think that's fair. I would say that for Mike, for Stephen, for Michelle, I think Stephen Valentine, who's going to sit, is the only one who's even sat on the planning commission and has a law degree. That doesn't take away from the knowledge base of Michelle Burton or Mike Lee, but I don't see how less information is going to be helpful. And I say this with all due respect. I do not trust some of the decisions I've been seeing made by the city council, especially when I get the reports back from the planning commission after these hour-long meetings where they themselves have voted 10-0 not to do this, and then the city council comes right back and does it anyway with no rhyme or reason, no full discussion. And I do personally feel like there are times when Commissioner Jacobs will sit in JCCPC and make a very impassioned argument. Brenda has sit in there, Commissioner Houghton has made a very impassioned argument. And if nothing else, that little bit that we give them at times put pressure on them. And I would like for that pressure to continue absent me being here. So I'm okay with us continuing to get information. And I thank you for your recommendation, and in no way is this indicative of me thinking that your recommendation is not sound. Thank you.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Yes, thank you for putting together a proposal. I just want to give a little bit of context, and I hopefully the residents who were here this morning are listening, and others as well, just to provide a little bit of context, because I think there also has been some confusion about this issue. What our current practice, well, first of all, as you stated, Sarah, legally in the state of North Carolina, and the state has made this decision, we as county commissioners have no authority around annexations, unfortunately. And I understand their frustration. I don't believe it's fair either, and I think it's wrong. But that is the reality. So we do not have authority, okay? But the way things have been currently working is that the reports, we get a list, for those of you who are not on JCCPC, what has been the current practice is on our agenda, we simply get a listing of projects that have been filed. So they are at the very, very, very beginning. There is no information. It's literally just a list of the projects at the very beginning. And also, we're actually not really even encouraged to make any comments at that time. It's just like an information item. So that is very limiting. That actually, and also the community cannot actually, it's not a discussion item, so residents don't even get to have input at that point. And we don't really have that much information. The second thing that's been happening is that the Gracie from the planning department sends us the information after it's gone through the planning commission and says, hey, if you want to provide input by this date, and then it will get included in the staff report. Well, I'm going to fess up. I've only given my written input one time. I'd like to know how many times have all of you done it? Okay, so that has been also really not effective, okay? Because it's like another email in our hundreds of emails that we get. So the issue is really about how do we actually give the residents' concerns more weight and importance, and how do we actually make this more of a real process where we're talking about this publicly and having a discussion as a board and getting information as a board, and then formalizing something so that our comments can actually get incorporated into the report that then goes to the city council. And we're also saying things on the record. So actually, we are trying, the idea, we were giving to the planning staff the mission of how do we actually improve the process. I think what I'm hearing from residents is that numbers 1 and 2, they would still, okay, 2 there doesn't need to be. If we do this, we don't need number 2 anymore, which is, okay. But it seems like they really value having a list still being part of the JCCPC agenda. So I guess one of my requests would be to put that back on again so that, you know, we all are aware at the get-go, you know, as an informational item so that the whole public as well as JCCPC can be aware of what has been submitted. But my second question is, and this came up from talking to Commissioner Carter, okay, the idea is that we have now adopted, all of us, the city and the county, our new comprehensive plan and our future place type map, which shows where the urban growth boundary is. And so now what we're trying to assume is that if anything that gets brought forward outside the urban growth boundary, we really need to hear about it because this is not following the plan. But then there is another situation, a nuance here, Sarah, which is what about rezonings that are within the urban growth boundary that are also not being consistent with the comprehensive plan and with the future place type map? Because we still could get rezonings, now correct me, but we still could get rezonings that are not consistent as well within the urban growth boundary, am I correct?
Yes.
So how, it seems like that should be also something somehow that is lifted up. Or I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that is something that is actually, it is not uncommon. We get plenty of rezoning requests that are not consistent with the place type map. In some cases, they are also being annexed. In other cases, they're already within the city limits and not consistent. Under state law, any zoning request that is not consistent with a community's future land use map, or in our case, a place type map, if the governing body approves that rezoning, the place type map or the future land use map is automatically amended to match. So that is state law. So it really falls to the jurisdiction that it's under and their decision on the rezoning.
So, but, okay. With properties that are still in the unincorporated areas, or let's say that have been county land, that are now within the urban growth boundary, okay, with the new urban growth boundary, I guess what I'm saying is for those county basically county residents or formerly, like people who are, okay, I guess I'm just wondering about those, whether those cases should still be treated differently in terms of us knowing about them, or because if we've all adopted this and they're not going to be following what's in the future place type map, then that's another situation where the plan isn't being followed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, can I make a suggestion?
Okay. Yeah.
I think it might be helpful if we continue with the summary kind of case reports to the JCCPC to really call out the ones where there is a difference, this situation that you're talking about, and maybe make sure that we build in some time there for you all to discuss that at those meetings. That might be a good way to kind of accomplish that look within the framework that already exists. So instead of just being a quick, like, here's the report, any questions, which is typically what happens, we could specifically go over the ones that are, as you said, in the county, subject to being annexed, but having a different place type.
Thank you.
Commissioner Howerton, then Commissioner Carter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I concur with both of my commissioners here. I keep reading this over and over again. Number 3, in the area where it says, these presentations will be informational only and will not be public hearings. So is this saying that whatever comments or recommendations that the commissioners have, their comments are not included in the presentation?
No, what that is saying is that just to make sure that we stay on the right side of the law, because you are not the body with jurisdiction, the city would be in those cases, we need to make sure that if anything is presented to you all, a case, it does not look and feel like a public hearing, meaning you would not, typically a public hearing, staff makes a presentation, the applicant makes kind of their pitch or presentation about their project, and then you ask if there's anyone from the public that wants to speak and give their 2 cents. So that's the part that could not happen, should not happen. The public could still, during your regular comment period, make any comments, and it could be related to that case or that item because it's on your agenda. But we want to make sure that there is clarity that the county commissioners are not holding a public hearing on an item that's not in their jurisdiction. However, you would still be discussing and providing comments that would then be included in the agenda item that would go to the city that would be part of their public record and their public hearing.
Okay, but the citizens would not be able to speak during that time.
I'm going to defer to our attorney on that.
You are correct, ma'am. The way it was being proposed is it's coming to you as an informational item, as are at a work session, as are others. Comments would be during public comment, but there would not be the illusion that that was an actual public hearing being held where this board was making controlling decisions.
So the residents in the county have simply, all of their rights have been taken away? That they cannot have any input in the decision that's being made? Is that what we're saying?
I would say that, as discussed, it would be coming to the board for information after it's been before the Planning Commission. So you'd have the benefit of their input, and of course, the residents could speak at that
So they can
proceeding.
speak at the Planning Commission, they just can't speak at the full board here?
Before
County
this
Commissioners.
board, as designed.
They can speak, let's make it, they can speak just at public comment, not as part of an official public hearing. We can hear from the public,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like
Right.
that.
Oh, yeah.
So really
Okay.
good way for us to get their input and to represent them by expressing our concerns back, but
Yeah.
it's just not an official public hearing.
That's, if I lived in the county, I'd say this sucks. And I don't live in the county, and I'd say it sucks.
Commissioner Carter?
I really appreciate hearing everybody's perspective on this because I'm not on the Joint City-County Planning Committee. It is complicated, nuanced, and we have received really compelling and concerning emails from citizens who are displeased with these proposed changes. But to me, it really does, taking everything into consideration, I feel like I am, under this new proposal, I would have more opportunity as a commissioner to pay close attention to what the annexation request entailed and connect that very directly to concerns from the resident by virtue of the fact that after these cases have gone to the Planning Commission, they're then going to come to us officially, in a really formal way through a work session where I will be prepared. Whereas now we do receive, the email from staff and I look at it and then like Wendy said, it's like, oh goodness, okay, I've got this. I don't have to reply to this right now. I'm going to do all these other ones I really need to reply to. And it's just never a situation where I feel like I'm fully informed enough to give any feedback to the city council. I feel like this will be an improvement because this will just formalize this process in such a way that this is before me as a commissioner. I'm responsible for knowing what this is all about now and learning about it and reading about it and being prepared to ask questions to staff when they come to our work session. So to me, this really increases the representation, honestly, of the county residents in the unincorporated areas who feel like they don't have representation. I hate that it feels like there's less for them. I heard their comments, I've read all their emails, and have really considered them carefully and think this seems better. I would say the part about planning staff will ensure that the city council is aware of the board's discussion on the case by providing one of the following. I definitely think the timestamp so that city council can go and listen. But I also think it would be better to have some sort of summary consolidating the feedback from the commissioners. I wonder what others think about that. Just to be an additional point of support for the city council to make sure they're just cluing in, I guess, to what it is that the county commissioners are thinking after having had the presentation at the work session.
Yeah, we're happy to provide, similarly with what we do with the Planning Commission. Planning commissioners provide us written comments, and we include those verbatim as an attachment to the city council.
That's a good
So
idea.
if you all, I don't want to be, I want to make sure that whatever comments are in are really your comments, and I don't want to be in a position where staff is paraphrasing and
Good
maybe we
idea.
get it wrong or whatever.
Oh,
So,
right.
our preference would be that you all provide us comments, and we are more than happy to put them in there. Like I said, we do that for Planning Commission already.
I think that's a really good suggestion. What do you all think about that?
Actually, I thought we were doing that, so I'm glad that you clarified it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I hear you don't want to try to translate what we say. I wouldn't want to either, God.
Well, Commissioner Carter, I think one of the issues present is if they start to create that record, are they now basically making the minutes? If there's a discrepancy with what the clerk writes and y'all approve, there could be a problem.
Yep.
I'll also note, ma'am, you had talked about a formalized input. In my capacity supporting planning, I've been at these JCCPC meetings where this was discussed, and the consensus that I picked up from our board members who were part of that was that trying to move into a process where this board could hear and collectively communicate and make a decision and provide input was one of the goals. And it not just be about an individual commissioner or two or even all three, but that the board saying, okay, we've got some thoughts on this to communicate to the city council before they make that decision.
Well, I suppose that if it would somehow be more desirable to have, well, what is the body politic's point of view on this case? That, we couldn't vote, but, right, we couldn't vote, I guess you're right. Okay, never mind.
It's not about making an up, down,
Yeah.
or anything on each and every one of these.
Right.
But to the extent it's outside the urban growth boundary or it represents a zoning change that's inconsistent, if the body had concerns to share, they would have that mechanism, if that makes sense.
Yeah, how would we have the mechanism? Through this process?
Yes, ma'am.
Got it. Yeah, I think that's good enough. Yeah. Meaning good enough at getting what you and I were just talking, what we were just talking, yes.
So,
And overall, I think it's good. I think it's a good,
So
overall, I endorse this proposal. I guess is what I'm saying. If you
so
need to know
in
this.
summary, then, we're removing number 2. The planning staff will no longer send the comments, but commissioners will be sending comments, but planning staff won't be emailing us asking?
Okay. We are going to keep number 1, except that when the summary comes to, I'm going kind of in order. When the summary comes to JCCPC, we will specifically highlight annexation cases that might be within the urban growth boundary, but have a different place type, right, are inconsistent with the place type. And we will seek specific, dialogue about that at JCCPC. So we will get that there. Our clerk, who is familiar with JCCPC, can kind of summarize that as part of the minutes, and that could be a way to include that information moving forward. We'll have to think about that, but so we could capture that. We would stop doing number 2, which is emailing for individual comments, since that seems not effective. And with number 3, which is having applicants present informational items on cases that are outside the urban growth boundary to you all at a work session. I think there, and we can do it a number of ways. We can and I don't want to be putting words in anyone's, but we could work with the clerk, for instance, and make sure that whatever, is summarized is what is put into the council minutes to make sure that the integrity of the record is there. You all could, as part of, this is something brand new you're going to be doing, right? So as part of your deliberations, perhaps at the end of the conversation, there's like a quick summary. Hey, so these are our concerns, right? And that could be something fairly easy that we could work with the clerk to jot down and make sure that we're consistent in how, that is passed along to council. So I think there's a little bit of, and actually we have our first case that was submitted that is outside the urban growth boundary. So we're going to be testing this out, within who knows how many months. But I would suggest that we likely try and work with the clerk for the purposes of making sure the integrity of the record is consistent. Does that help?
Yeah, and I think maybe even providing, to make it easier also for our clerk staff, like if we just have like a document or a piece of paper that all of us just write our comments and we could just pass it on to the clerk in written format as well.
That is how the Planning Commission used to do it in our pre-digital age, is we would set pieces of paper and with the case number and the comments, and they would just fill them in and hand them in at the end of the meeting, and that would be compiled. So
I think that would be good. Okay, Commissioner Jacobs?
How do we make sure that we implement this before this new case moves forward?
Oh, there'll be plenty of time. It's not moving fast at all.
Okay.
We have many, many months. Don't worry.
Okay, thank you. And Chair Lum, that's what I was going to suggest as a former fifth grade teacher, like just a sheet of paper that we can just, because we won't do it afterwards, and that we can jot down our comments right then and there and hand them in like we do when we vote for boards and commissions.
I don't want Monica and her team having to chase us down more than she already has to. Okay, wonderful. Any more questions? Okay, and I think we have a plan. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you all so much.
Okay.